Hey guys, it's Lemmingrush, and today we're going to be taking a look at a replay that was sent in to me by Mackenzo. He's in an STB-1, and he asked me just to commentate over this replay, so I can say what he did wrong, what he did right, etc, etc. So, in this replay, he ended up doing 10,000 damage. He got 7 kills, and the first thing that I like to do when I start off a battle is typically going to be to look at the enemy lineup. So, I noticed the enemy has an E100 and IS-7, so 2 tier 10 heavies, a lot of tank destroyers, and 2 tier 9 mediums. So that tells me that the majority of their team is probably going to be camping in the base. What I would expect is for enemies to be right up here camping in base, and so that is definitely going to be a factor when I'm deciding how I want to push into their base. So normally I go south on this map because it makes it easier to kill the tank destroyers camping in the base. However, Mackenzo's going north. Now, I don't think this is a very good play if you look at the enemy team lineup, because if you'll notice, the Skoda and the Leopard want PTA have already been spotted, and they're not in the north. So the odds of Mackenzo finding people to fight up here is probably not great. The other problem I have with the northern area of this map is pushing through is really hard, because you have to push into camping TDs who are typically in their base, and those camping TDs have an advantage of camo, etc, etc. So Mackenzo's just waiting here. We can watch it in times 2. Eventually he decides nothing's coming up here, which is totally fair. And here comes the first problem I have with this side of the map. He has to cross sort of an open alleyway if he wants to push this side. So you can see, if that Skoda had been paying attention, he could have clipped Mackenzo out, or the IS-7. You see the IS-7 took a snapshot at Mackenzo. The IS-7 luckily missed, but this is my main problem with the north. Like, right now he has to kill this IS-7 and Skoda, and if he's any more sort of aggressive on this corner, soon Artie and TDs will be able to hit him. So right now he's actually in a really tough spot, and that's just what happens when you play this side of the map. So something to consider. I really don't like this side. You can see he's putting shots into the IS-7. It was good of him to focus the Skoda down first. The Skoda has potential to run away, so it totally makes sense to try to get rid of someone. The IS-7 is going to stay there for quite a while. So Mackenzo's able to put shots into the IS-7's lower plate. Eventually the IS-7 is going to start backing up, and he'll be able to put shots into the upper front plate of him. But at the angle the IS-7 is right now, you're definitely able to put shots into the IS-7's lower plate. One thing I did want to commentate on, though, was the fact that you're showing your engine to the enemy. So you can see you're not running a fire extinguisher, so simply the fact that you're showing your engine to the IS-7, I think is actually pretty risky. Like, the IS-7 just shot the rear of your tank, so he could have very easily lit you on fire there. It's just something to consider, because, like, fires really do suck. I obviously don't know how your crew is set up, but, you know. Alright, so now comes the difficult part. Normally that happens when you're playing the north. You can see the T10 is trying to push up. They're very likely going to have TDs camping back here. Now, I've seen the replay, and you can see the T10 isn't getting shot up, so that sort of gives you the impression, like, it could give you the impression that they don't have many TDs, but for all you know, the T10 isn't lit, so just something to keep in mind. I would still play it really cautiously, because there was a Waffle Panther Panzer IV camping base. So I'm just going to pause it right now. Currently, the enemy team is missing many tank destroyers who are unspotted. They're missing a Grill, 2 Jagdpanther 2s, and all those tanks have the ability to kill Mackenzo if he makes a risky play, and I would expect them to be camping back here. So, with that in mind, I think Mackenzo makes a really risky play right here, and I don't think it was worth it. He decides to cross over. Now, you're going to notice immediately he gets shot by a Waffle Panzer IV. If that Waffle Panzer IV had penned, Mackenzo would have lost. So I think the better way to approach pushing this side of the map is to come out wide like this T10 is doing. That is going to allow you to get closer to the tank destroyers, and it'll also be a lot safer, so you don't have to worry about getting hit by like 4 base camping TDs. Right now he's just looking for shots on this Skoda. He gets unlucky and tracks him. Artie shoots and misses. And right now I think he makes a really good play. So he has the option to kill the artillery. However, he goes after the PTA. Now, the T10 is in a position where he's going to kill Artie. You really don't need to take that kill from him. Going after the PTA, who's in a relatively bad spot, is definitely the right play. And I think you take care of it really well here. Like, you're hull down and you're basically making this work. I noticed the PTA stock, so he's probably not going to be able to pen your turret reliably. That's something to consider, but, you know, he misses his shot, so you're able to finish him off pretty easily. So now comes another point in time where you're faced with, okay, what do I do next? So your team is down 2 tanks, and you need to decide how you want to push into their base. You to make a really don't do this. Okay, okay. You see this surfing of the ridge right here? If they had simply had a grill 15 on this ridge line, you would be dead. Like this ridge surfing isn't smart. Again, try to stay low. Giving your broadside to TDs is really like a recipe for disaster, so I'd suggest just being aware of that. I think you need to be a bit more cautious because ultimately you're really lucky you haven't been hit or penned by any base camping TDs. Like those that Jagdpanther 2 is still unlit, so for all you know he's camping base. That's just something I would consider. So right now you're in a position where you want to push into the waffle. You don't know where the grill is, and the Jagdpanzer E100 was spotted a while ago, but he was last spotted here. So I would keep that in mind when pushing into this. There is potential that he could have pushed up into the south, but a lot of times TDs like to just sit in the base. So I would expect, since you've cleared out the entire map, for the Jagdpanzer E100 and the grill to be in this area. And right now you do sort of something that I think could have thrown you the game. You're pushing into this Waffle Panzer IV. Now, if that grill had simply come up right here, it could have hit you for 750 easily. And you're going to see, like, you're really lucky. The timing was really interesting because that grill almost could have lost you the game right there. So right now you're going to push into the grill. Again, I think this is risky because we don't know where a Jagdpanther 2 is, and we don't know where the Jagdpanzer E100 is. Here you spot the Arty. I wouldn't have been surprised if this was the Jagdpanzer E100. So potential game loss, losing play. I think you need to be a bit more cautious, like I said, because people like to camp in positions like this just to try to ambush you. You notice the Arty immediately, which is pretty impressive. Like, your situational awareness is awesome. And you do go after the artillery, which is totally fair. You don't want to get one shot by him. I think after he shot, you could have afforded to aim your shot, but you probably know that, so. Right now, you're just going to focus him down. Completely reasonable thing to do. Now you're going to go after this grill. You are really good at brawling, so I don't really need to commentate on this, like say what you're doing wrong. Really, you're just doing the best you can. You're trying to track him, and you know you're not always able to hit a vehicle's tracks if you're moving. But again, I think if you had a bit more hit points, you would have been able to kill this guy a bit more reliably. Also, I'm interested in as to why you're not using your HE. You do carry 7 of them, so I think like if you're going to carry so much, try to use them. Obviously, you probably know this stuff, though. It's just like for any other viewers. So right now, you're going to the E100. The E100's looking at you, and one thing you're going to notice is he takes a snapshot at you, but his tracer is white, so that means he's going to be shooting heat at you, and that is something I would expect from an E100. So keep that in mind when you're hulled down. In your email, you said that the STB-1 has terrible turret armor. I agree. I really, like, you shouldn't be relying on it when you're against an E100. And, you know, the E100's definitely already shooting heat, so I'd expect that to be continued by him. So you spotted the Jagdpanzer E100 pretty much immediately after he was lit. Really good job there. You have a decision, right? Like, you're faced with a decision. Do I help out the T10 and kill the E100, or do I kill the JPE? And I think you make the right decision here. The one thing that I sort of notice is you're a bit hesitant on YOLOing the Jagdpanzer. I think if you had gone immediately, it would have been a bit safer, simply because I think by the time you get there, the Jagdpanzer would be reloaded. Like, the Jag is going to be reloaded any second now, and I think you're a bit lucky that he didn't kill you. That's just something to comment on. Maybe be a bit more aggressive if you're going to try to rush someone after they shoot, or just don't go on at all, because really, he might have been ammo racked, but you don't know that, so yeah, that's just a small comment. I think you're doing really well. You're able to track the Jagdpanzer, obviously, and you're going to finish him off. You're up to 8,800 damage, and now you're left over with dealing with this E100. So you've only got heat left. That means you're not going to be able to reliably pen the side of an E100. You probably know this. Your best bet is going to be to stay hull down, and naturally that's exactly what you're doing. You're going to want to minimize your size to make it harder for that E100 to hit you. One thing that I noticed that you didn't do when I watched this replay for the first time is you didn't use your mobility a lot. Like, you have to realize this guy's alone. You have 6 minutes left, and you really don't need to try to trust your turret armor right now. The STB just has terrible turret armor. You might as well be in a Leopard 1. So doing this type of shot-for-shot trading is really risky. It's not... Normally it won't work out, simply because the E100, if he hits you, he's going to pen you. And really, like, this is really risky. So by now, you're going to notice the E100 is stopped. He managed to hit you. He shot HE, though, which was actually pretty smart. But I think that if you had simply run away or gone wide or something, you might have been able to just live for a bit longer. Like, you're actually really lucky the HE didn't kill you or damage your commander and your gunner. So I think a better way to have approached this might have been to just like run back to base, use the time. Like, you have a view range advantage over the E100. I'd suggest using that, and that's going to be one of like the biggest strengths of a medium tank end game, is to play vision games. And you just didn't really do that, so something to consider. You definitely got lucky that the HE didn't kill you, but you know, luck happens. If you try enough, you're gonna get lucky. So those are just my comments. Right now you're behind the U100. You do decide to flank him, which is really good. You get a bit unlucky here, bounce the rear of his turret with heat somehow, and that's gonna end up costing you your 8th kill, but you are able to bring it to 10k damage. So hopefully this replay analysis thing was helpful to you and to anyone else watching. Like, I think you did a really good job, but I also think you were a bit too not careful with your hit points. Like, for example, you should have expected the grill to be back here, and when you were surfing those ridges, you should have expected to get hit for 750 health. So just something to consider. Hopefully this was helpful. Let's go take a very quick look at the post-game stats. So in the end, you got 2,000 experience, 124,000 credits, high caliber, and a top gun. You ended up doing 10,027 damage, so no blind fire, 7 kills, and 1456 base. Anyways, that was the replay. Hopefully it was helpful. Like, I'm trying to be critical and just to like emphasize your mistakes. You played it pretty well in general. I just think like that a lot of the things you did could have ended badly if simply you had been off by a second timing. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful. If you want to see more, be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button, and I hope to see you around. Later, guys. Bye-bye.